smartest guys around are about to break it down like they've won the game a million times.
Well, actually, they didn't really win the game at all.
Survivor know it all. Survivor know it all.
Without a doubt.
They've got it figured out.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Yes.
right.
Queen.
Got it
yes.
figured out once again. Okay, and we're here to share that insight with you, the listener and Survivor fan. I am Rob Cesternino, back with Stephen Fishbach. Stephen, how's your Thanksgiving?
Lovely. It was really nice. How was it podcasting with Omer? Terrible, I hope.
No, it was actually incredible. Omer was on fire. So it was I will
light myself on fire if that's what it takes to win your affection.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a really good show last week with Omer, much to your chagrin. Omer did a really great job last week.
Still, he's not here now, is he? So
yeah. Okay, well, let's see. So you have a lot to live up to here tonight, and so we will break it all down. Are you a big Thanksgiving guy?
Love Thanksgiving much more than any other holiday. Love to love the
holiday.
family aspect of it. Everybody together around the table, delicious foods. You know, there's I feel like even with the bigger holidays with Christmas and Hanukkah, there's a lot of stress. Everyone's very stressed out.
No gifts.
The right present.
That's the best thing about Thanksgiving. No gifts.
And there's like a lot of like expectation around those holidays, we better be having a good time because it's Christmas. Thanksgiving, everyone relaxes, and I mean, I know that's not, traditionally Thanksgiving can be a time of familial strife for many people.
Yep. Lots of people around the table, different opinions on who the winner edit is pointing to.
Someone at my table suggested Cassidy, and I was like, are you insane? She has one of the worst edits of the season.
Yeah.
But then they brought up that Erica won season 41, even with a subpart edit, and so it was got heated.
Okay. All right. Well, we are back here together live to talk about a very interesting Survivor Final 7. I've got a lot of questions for you, Stephen, about how this ultimately came together. We'll also talk about a pretty iconic return of a Survivor famous challenge here tonight that I think everybody was pretty excited to see, and how that all played out here tonight on Survivor Know-It-Alls. We'll take your questions in the chat as well. On Thursday morning, I will have the opportunity to speak with Sammy. Lots of questions to ask him.
Sammy the Snake.
We
were both big Sammy fans, and I know, Rob, you love Sammy the Snake.
I love the Snake in any Survivor season.
Yeah.
That's, always one of my favorite players to watch. And Sammy did a really good job. I think he ultimately hit a wall on the Noel vote. It looked like that at times that he was going to survive tonight's vote, but ultimately did not work out that way. So lots of questions for him. On Thursday, I will have a chance to catch up with your friend and mine, Adam Klein. Is going to join me for the podcast this week. So looking forward to that. And then for our feedback show, the Purple Pants Badass himself, Bryce Isaiah, a tradition unlike any other.
Is it always the final seven?
Show. It's not always the final 7, but usually a couple of weeks before the finale is when. I mean, this is traditionally when the family visit used to be. And so Bryce is locked in for a feedback show here with us late in the season. So we'll get to that. But Stephen, I guess my first question for you tonight is, what happened? It seemed like that there was certainly like a plan that Carla was pushing of let's vote for Cassidy. Cassidy is my ally, but she knows about my idol. Okay, so maybe she's working against me. Gonna take out Cassidy. All right, so people seemed on board with that, but Jesse comes in late in the game. Hey, how about this? Why don't we vote out Sammy? And in the process, the other tightest duo in the game we thought was Carla and Cassidy, but if Carla wants Cassidy gone, let's keep Cassidy and we'll make Carla look bad, because when she votes for Cassidy, Cassidy will be furious and they will no longer be working together and will take Sammy out of the game. Yet at Tribal Council, all the votes were for Sammy. So what happened in between all of the strategizing on the beach and what happened when we saw the votes read at tribal council?
I guess Carla found out.
Do you think that's what happened? But then how did she find out? Did somebody tell her?
Yeah,
And if
someone
so,
must have
then
told
who?
her. Yeah, yeah. I mean, hopefully we find out next week. It was frustrating, obviously, but they show us this very fun plan to have Carla vote against her ally, and that's a great move. I think it's something we did a lot in token chains. Maybe you guys did it as well in Amazon. If you get an ally to vote against their ally, it's a great way to separate people. And maybe it doesn't instantly fracture that duo, but it creates distrust between them. And if someone votes against someone once, they're much more likely to vote against them a second time. So it's a very smart move. It was too bad that Carla seemed to find out about it. I mean, who knows, right? Like maybe Gabler told Carla at the last minute, hey, here's the real plan. That's certainly what we saw him do, right? With Owen one week, maybe, who knows? Maybe Owen wanted to build trust with Carla. Maybe somebody wanted to build trust with Carla, didn't necessarily want the Carla and Cassidy fracture. Maybe Cassidy told Carla, hey, we're voting Sammy. And at the last minute, Carla's like, yeah, I don't want to vote out Cassidy. Like, I want to vote out Sammy.
Well, I think that there's still a lot more moving parts because as far as Carla is concerned, everybody was voting Cassidy in Carla's mind. So, if Cassidy says, hey, I'm voting Sammy,
right. No, probably wasn't just Cassidy, but probably there was at least one other person, maybe it was Owen, maybe it was
but why not show that to us? Because I feel like that's the biggest question I have coming away from this episode of that. If somebody leaked it to Carla, then who and why?
But I bet we'll find out right at the start of next episode, because they got to keep the question mark, right, Rob? They got to keep the question mark of, is it going to be Sammy or is it going to be Cassidy? If they show someone telling, and even with the Sammy vote, they've got to have some question of like, will Carla be in on it? I mean, I guess they have to have that as a question. Honestly, you're right. Like they created this
I've
big
waited 10 years for that.
Yeah. I mean, now that I know that I'm competing with Omer, I gotta, blow a little more smoke.
Yeah. Okay.
The fact that they created this big, talking point of Jesse like deviously getting Carla to vote against Sammy and nothing, I'm sorry, against Cassidy. And then nothing really happens with that. It felt like a lot of, speaking of smoke, a lot of smoke, very little fire. But I just think, and honestly, it may have just been there for like the fun of it, like the fun of showing Jesse kind of pulling off a devious move, even when that devious move didn't really come to fruition. Yeah. But I don't know. This doesn't bother me. Although, every episode there's someone casts a vote we don't understand.
But to me, the interesting part of it is that Carla was the one that was pushing the hardest for we need to vote out Cassidy.
Right.
So I really am very interested to know why Carla ended up coming around to this idea. I don't think it was Jesse's idea. Now, look, I thought Jesse had a brilliant plan to, let's keep, if Carla wants Cassidy out of the game, let's keep Cassidy in the game.
Yeah, that's great. That's so smart.
That was great. So I don't think it would be his idea. Cody really, he seemed very against the idea of voting out Sammy when we saw him talk. So if anything,
he thought Cassidy was more dangerous.
He's like,
Sammy.
we know Cassidy has got to be the move. Not Owen. Not Sammy.
Not Sammy. And we've said before that Sammy and Cody, seem to have a good relationship. So that might just be like personal preference, right? He and Sammy kind of vibe a little bit, and maybe not so much with Cassidy. Now, what's your take, Rob? So I thought very interesting thinking. Like if Carla wants her best ally gone, maybe we don't need her. Like maybe that alliance is not so strong. Maybe we don't need to spend a vote breaking it up, because here at the final 7, every vote really matters. You are spending votes because you have 3 votes, 7, 6, and 5. And then at the final 4, then it's fire. So you have 3 votes to get out the big threats. That the idols are coming in, right? I mean, definitely at the final 5. So if Carla makes it to the final 5, she's going all the way. Obviously that's true for Jesse and Cody as well. Yeah. So, each of these people is kind of determining like what is the highest priority target here. What's your take? Was from, let's say, from the Jesse Cody duo? Yeah. What's the better vote here, Cassidy or Sammy?
Oh, I think Sammy was unquestionably the better person to get out of the game because Cody tried to say, oh, well, Sammy's he's out first in the challenges. And, Cassidy, she is like always in the end of the things. We saw that Sammy was great at fire. We've seen that Sammy is, a flip flopper, could go in any different direction. He is a big athletic guy. He could pull out an immunity challenge win at any point. So I definitely think that Sammy was the more dangerous player to get rid of. For the most part, even though Carla has suspicions about Cassidy, where Cassidy is in the game.
Right.
And I think she's much more of a known quantity in what she's capable of than Sammy is. So I think I would be much more afraid of Sammy if I was from the Jesse perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I think Sammy's dangerous. He's also played maybe a more visible game than Cassidy has because he has, flip flop so much. He can say I was on this move and I was on that move. And I haven't gotten the sense that this is a particularly bitter jury. I mean, have you? I mean, obviously, we saw James kind of steaming when he left the game, but other than him, it has seemed like a pretty,
the jury, Stephen, they seemed really adamant that Sammy playing the shot in the dark was a great move. Yeah. They really like the shot in the dark. Yeah. We are jurors. We love this. This is exciting for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they probably love him because he's, like the jury always roots for the underdog, right? Because the underdog is not the person who voted them out. Like the top dogs are the ones who voted them out. So they want the underdog to do well. And in some ways, like I think that could be really good for Owen going into this the finals here, because Owen is the ultimate underdog. He is the Charlie Brown underdog. And we saw a little bit about that here. Do you think someone like Owen, Rob, could win it all? Like someone who has been, their whole storyline is about how they have not been correct on any of the votes.
Yeah, I certainly think that Owen could be a person who wins. If he gets to the end of the game, that I feel like even though he's really only been correct, I think, one time voting. And I think today, there are people, prior
Mariah
to today.
And Sammy. And didn't he vote?
Well, I mean in the post-merge that, he voted correctly on the Janine vote, had his vote taken away on the James vote, but he lied to James and said he voted for Ryan. But I think that he has persevered, and I think that Owen is so savvy about that. He knows, like we were calling him the Charlie Brown of the game the whole time through, and he's so like self-aware that he knows, like, okay, this is how I'm coming across. This is my position in the game. That he knows what his edit is while he's out there playing. He's like, oh yeah, and they should put my name up on the screen, and then they should put on the screen. So he's just so savvy about the game that I think that he certainly, if he gets to the final three, I think he could make a really compelling case.
Well, I mean, and what I love about Owen is he's got the receipts for his prolonged fandom to the point where he has, a Reddit post, it was a Reddit post, right, that he made years ago talking about how if he was ever on Survivor, he would really like to participate in the last gasp challenge. Tonight he wins it. Like what? How cool.
Yeah.
He called a shot.
Yeah. That's
in the dark.
It's pretty amazing, especially when you have stuff like that. So, keep those receipts, Survivor fans, about, calling your shots before you go and play on the season. As far as Carla goes, Stephen, I really want to get your opinion about Carla wanting to take out Cassidy here. To me, I am a little bit saying to myself, okay, like, is there a good reason to do this?
I mean, her rationale is twofold, right? Like one, we see Sammy putting it in her head that Cassidy was the one who was, throwing her name out at the last vote. And then two is this idea that Cassidy is the one person who knows about her idol, which is wild because we as viewers know that both of those things are false. We know that Cassidy was not throwing Carla's name out, and we know that other people know about her idol, including Jesse. I mean,
people are suspicious. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the idea, I still can't get over that not everybody knows about her idol, given the beads thing, given they all know about the beads. The fact that there are some people who don't know about Carla's idol is flummoxing, which I'd love, please, Rob, but anyway, more to the point, your question, like why Cassidy, it's a bad move, right? It's a bad move because Cassidy is the ally for her who has been her partner the whole time, but who she, at least from my point of view, maybe you feel differently, she sort of overshadows in the way that we thought Carla cutting James was a good move because he was her ally and he overshadowed her. You know, Cassidy is like the Carla to Carla's being James. Like she's the lower tier ally. That's the person you want in the game. The one who is your buddy, but is not going to beat you at the finals.
Yeah. Again, we only see what we see, but it seems very odd that Carla would want Cassidy out of the game. It seems like that Cassidy would be somebody that if Carla sat next to her, especially coming off of a second immunity win. I know that Cassidy just won immunity last week, that you would think that Carla would have the better potential resume against Cassidy to be able to win the jury vote. Also, in terms of having the idol, okay, Cassidy has the information potentially about Carla having the idol, but it's the final 7.
Yeah.
You're going to vote out Sammy at this vote. Okay, there's only 2 votes left.
Right.
That you can play the hidden immunity idol. What's the big deal if people know about you having the idol? There's only 2 votes when you can play it.
Well, but I actually think that puts the pressure on voting people out sooner, right? Like, so if they did, you know, that like puts a lot of pressure on her being voted out next. If everyone knows she has an idol so she's safe at 5, suddenly she becomes a very big target at 6.
But also Cody has an idol.
Well, right. I mean, and Jesse has an idol. But you know, maybe one of them wins immunity. I just think it dramatically ups the level to which people are talking about you. As a potential boot, like right at the end, like right when you're moments away from getting there.
I think if somebody went to Carla and talked her out of this move against Cassidy, I think somebody did Carla a big favor tonight and talked her out of what would have been a potentially disastrous move for her game, where one that I think voting out Cassidy in that spot was a bad idea to begin with, and then to, you know, go for this bad idea and then to not have it work, to sort of like blow up in your face on top of that. I mean, this could have been like a game-ending decision for Carla.
I have been kind of disappointed in Carla post-merge. And I want your perspective here, Rob, because Carla was my favorite pre-merge, you know, and we saw so much of how everyone trusted Carla. Carla seemed to be the one running things, you know, when Cody came over to the tribe and was like doing his sales pitch to, like, you know, Carla was the one who saw through it. And I felt post-merge, we've seen a lot less of that. Like, Carla has not seemed to be the one driving strategy. She's got a lot of relationships, but she doesn't seem to be the decision maker. And here we just see her, you know, being completely wrong about everything. Like, what's your take on, like, A, Carla's position in the game, and B, Carla's chances as a winner? Okay,
well, I think it's such a hard question to answer, where we saw Carla really playing stupendously in the pre-merge. She talked about at times playing a perfect game was something that she wanted to do. And everything that she was doing, she had a magic touch in the pre-merge. Here in the post-merge, while things have mostly gone her way, what we really don't know from Carla, and we see a lot of people talking about how they feel about Carla, I don't think we've really ever gotten a clear picture of what is Carla's endgame. What does Carla want to do? You know, we hear, different people talk about like that they want to work with Carla, Jesse in particular, Sammy as well. Was another person that said they felt like that they wanted to work with Carla. And, you know, she has Cassidy as an ally, but like, what if Carla wants to take Cassidy out? What is she working towards in terms of a final 3?
Right. Where is her other alliance? And maybe
Gabler and Sammy, or Gabler. Or I mean,
Sammy and she have a thing, but you know, it does at the same time. She seems to be. I mean, I guess everybody's in with everybody.
Does she think she's the third with Jesse and Cody?
I mean, maybe she's got this thing with Sammy and Gabler.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, you're right. Yeah, that's the question. It's like who. Yeah, I mean, so I don't think we've had that sense from Carla, and we also just haven't seen her steering the ship as much. You know, I mean, I think, you know, Cody tonight says it's been Jesse and he driving the Survivor bus in the post-merge, and that has largely been my perception too, that Jesse and Cody have been the ones making most of the decisions. Does that square with kind of your read on things?
I mean, certainly. I mean, going back from the Dwight vote, I think that they really ended up going into a great position where they were able to, jump on with Coco and with Sammy. And so they were able to sort of like dictate that vote, dictate the Janine vote. Then they had the split tribal councils. And then they were able to double back and then take out another member of their original tribe in Noel last week. And so here they are again calling the shot of who is going to get them out. We saw Gabler at the end of the last episode say to Carla, boy, I think we maybe have a Jesse and Cody problem. We got to watch out for them. But unless it was Gabler who was the one, we saw Gabler talk to Owen and say,
I think it might have been Gabler.
I've got a plan to get us to the final three. What was interesting about that was I don't think that Gabler said who the other name in the final three was. He said, hey, I've got a plan to get us to the final three. Is Gabler trying to get him, Owen, and Carla to the final three? Is that Gabler's plan?
That would be a very interesting final three. I mean, I will say that. Like that.
And
that
is
could
Carla
be,
in on that?
Yeah. I kind of think it was Gabler because, like, again, like we saw Gabler do the same thing with Owen, where he at the last minute he gave him the info about where to vote. I kind of think it was Gabler who. I mean, Gabler's the secret architect of the whole season in my
he could be
headcanon. Yeah.
Yeah. He said to Owen, I was going to try to tell you that Jesse and Cody brought me in last minute about the Noel vote. He was trying to get Owen to go back on the right page. And so it certainly is possible. I mean, Gabler seemed fine to let Sammy go in this spot. Maybe we find out that he was the person that told Carla at the last second, it's a trap. Go ahead and don't vote for Cassidy, although it does look like that Jesse is going to then run back to Cassidy with the information next week about Carla was thinking about voting for her.
Can Gabler win the season?
I still think that he is a long shot. And I think that the thing that came up on the podcast this week was Gabler, I think, could beat a person. You could sort of like but can you get him to beat two people in the finals?
What if those two people, split the votes? What if it's like Cody, Jesse, and Gabler?
Yeah.
Cody and Jesse, and Gabler gets the protest vote.
I think it would be unlikely. I'm not seeing it yet.
It could be a spoiler.
I guess it's possible, but I don't see it as of right now. I still think that he would need to go on a run. I think that he has been too much under the radar. I think we've seen maybe more of what he's been doing in the edit, but I feel like that to the other players, I don't know if it's been visible enough compared to some of these other heavy hitters.
Rob, there's a lot to talk about this episode, which I feel like we should get into because there were so many great scenes, so many great moments.
Sure.
The first of which was this extremely funny advantage search scene. And the number one thing people were tweeting at me on Twitter was, why do people not look where the camera's pointing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this is a great question. First off, for the survivors, what a lucky break that the survivors just all happened to be up this one morning and watching the sunset when the boat came with the clue. I mean, could you imagine that they were so fortunate that they all seven of them happened to be awake at watching the sunset that morning?
Maybe they heard them there, but it also could have been they just might have been there, and then someone sees a boat on the horizon and they're like, oh my God, get Gabler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No,
okay.
Right.
So, Stephen, I don't have a good answer to that question about why don't the survivors look where the camera is pointing.
Rick Devins posted about this, and he's like, the camera guys like to mess with you when you're looking for things, so they'll point all over the place. And I tried to hack, camera pointing from the camera person when I was looking for idols, and they're like moving all around. They're looking at you, and you're like, oh, where you go? At some point, it's too much information. I mean, that's the challenge with looking for these idols. Is like, we, the viewer, see the relevant parts, in the edited show. But in fact, when it takes like multiple hours of looking, there's a lot of camera pointing. There's a lot of trees. Your eyes are scanning quickly.
Yeah.
But it was a very funny scene.
The things that you always hear are that if you go look for the idol and the camera person doesn't follow you, okay, you're not going in the right direction. Now, I don't know how many camera people they might have on the beach for something like that. I feel like if Survivor production really was smart about this, you would think they would flood the zone with camera people in a situation like this. Maybe have like 6 or 7 camera operators out there following the players all around. So you couldn't just say, okay, well, I went that way, nobody followed me, so obviously the idol might not be over there. Over the course of a long afternoon, you suspect that there could be hours of time when the camera is pointed at you, like so many of the shots were, that I think it's hard to know, like when if the camera was pointed like at a tree,
right, and you weren't in the shot at all,
and you weren't in the shot,
yeah,
I think it's probably a little hard to understand, like, well, what the camera person is filming, but that was a really well edited sequence.
It was so frustrating,
times,
just so many people walking right past that thing, and even Cody multiple times walking right. Gabler walked right past it, and Sammy walked right past it. So many people just like, and it was, I mean, like Cody walked back and forth. I mean, it was so funny. But it was great. So Cody gets this advantage.
Mid-sentence, he sees it. That was great.
Yeah. And he just, the hand just got it covered up.
Yeah.
Very, very cool reaction from Cody, although less cool when he's in the confessional and is doing a little dance, doing the Mike Holloway happy dance. But a very fun advantage. I really like this, but I do think
you do choose your champion advantage.
I think it needs to be tweaked, but I want to talk through it with you. So choose your champion. Cody gets to pick which other player he wants to who could win the challenge, and then he could win immunity through it. Did you not like it?
I think it was, sometimes we have things that are OP. I thought this one was seemed kind of UP in terms of it was an advantage that then you have to present to Jeff. There is like nothing that is like stealth about it. You have to like basically like admit like everybody has been looking for this thing. Then you have to go and like publicly say like, all right, everybody, I've been lying to everybody.
Well, but I think that actually makes it, I assume Cody immediately went and told them, because there's no like magic power to it. It's not a steal a vote. It's not a steal a thing. You just say like, oh, here's what I get to do. Like, this is this thing I get to do. I mean, if anything, I thought that was a drawback to like the subterfuge of it, is that there was no subterfuge. I mean, that's sort of what you're saying, but it's not that he has to admit anything.
I don't know. Maybe he did tell everybody.
My guess is he went immediate, because like there's no.
I will ask Sammy tomorrow.
But like, there's no reason not to. And in fact, like it immediately diffuses the tension of it. Like, oh, I found it. Here's what it is. It's not going to affect you negatively at all. It's going to potentially affect me positively. I'm not taking anything from anybody. I'm just getting to do this like fun little parlor game where I get to wager on one of you guys. Doesn't hurt anybody. It maybe helps me. And then the problem with this advantage is that it was revealed after the votes were cast, meaning Cody was, regardless of who he picked, no one was going to vote for Cody, because there's always the risk that he picked the wrong person.
Yeah.
It should have been revealed before the votes were cast.
It should have been revealed right at the immunity challenge. You're like, all right, let's see who Cody wrote down. Like, Owen, like,
but I liked a little bit of the question mark. I thought that added a little bit of suspense, and I thought that was a fun thing for the viewers, and probably a little bit of like tension for the cast. But like making the reveal after the vote meant that there was no chance that anyone would ever vote for Cody.
Yeah, you could never vote for Cody. Yeah. So it was basically like he had immunity no matter what.
But it would have been cool if like it was a possibility, like it was revealed right before the votes were cast, and then someone was like, "Hold up, it's Cody," something like. I mean, that would be an unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically like he got immunity from doing this, like even just from finding it.
So that is overpowered. Then I mean, that's
I guess so for the one round. Just like I thought it was kind of underwhelming, but I'm fine with advantages being underwhelming because that they're not gonna drastically change the game. It was basically like that Cody found like a 1 round hidden immunity idol. I had a little bit of a question of, should they have shown us at home who Cody voted for, who he picked, because I felt like it kind of sucked
Right.
the drama out of it.
Right. It makes you root a little bit more for that person, especially it being Owen who was in the challenge. Suddenly you're like, you've got more of like a rooting, more of
If
a
you have a
question.
vested interest in Cody, yeah.
Well, but just you're kind of not rooting one way or the other, rooting for Owen or against Owen. Like there's like more, like you're saying, there's more just more energy or more emotion around the challenge. I like the way they did it. There was the question. I mean, but then the way they revealed it was very strange. It was just kind of an off the cuff confessional. But, and he was like, yeah, and I voted for Owen, so I'm safe. Like, okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Who would you have picked? Like for this challenge?
That Owen was a really good pick. I think I predicted Gabler could be the person to win. Gabler he was the first one out of the challenge. He seems to me like the person who would be able to sit still. Cool. Maybe he's not a water guy.
Yeah.
And maybe Owen is a little bit better in the water. But go. Yes.
Oh no. I mean, I had Gabler and Cassidy. I had tweeted that I thought I would do well in this challenge because I have a narrow face and a big nose. But in fact, and those were also Gabler's virtues, narrow face and big nose. But someone else responded like maybe the big nose means like more rather than like more air opportunity. It's like more water going up your nose. So maybe that hurt Gabler. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Carla and Owen both have like wider faces and smaller noses. And the big nose people who are Gabler and Sammy were out of the challenge. I mean, Sammy doesn't have like a big nose, but like among this group of very petite noses, well-proportioned noses, Sammy's on the bigger nose side. This
is your finest analysis in 10 years of the know-it-alls. The knows-it-alls. Finally.
Exactly. This is where, this is where that edge comes in, Rob. It's thinking about these things. Maybe add this to the Survivor Academy.
Yes. If I'm ever mugged at the live show, I just hope that you get a good look at the perp so that you could tell the police sketch artist. Yes, it was very narrow nose. Yeah. Wide eye.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Stephen, we get the last gasp challenge. And look, we had last week, we had the House of Cards challenge, which we were so excited to have come back. Another classic challenge back here in Survivor 43. Survivor was feeling it. They were going to the old school music and everybody was loving it. I do have one nit to pick.
I think I may know
with
what
the challenge.
Yeah.
Boy, I wonder what the reaction was at Tom Westman's house when after 2 hours in the water, we've got a classic Survivor challenge on our hands. Jeff says, well, the tide is going down.
Yep.
You've beat the challenge. You both win immunity. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You've outlasted the tide.
Yeah.
What?
When has that been? Can you beat the challenge? I didn't know.
Was there a time limit? What is this?
Yeah. They were just handing out immunity to everybody. Yeah.
Stay in the water until somebody gets out. That's Survivor. That's called an endurance challenge.
Yeah. But I do think that like in the hanging on one, right? Like your body is in a tax, like the one with Tom and Ian, their body was in a tax position. Same with the one with Christian and Alec Merlino. In this one, after the tide goes out, you're hanging on, but you're supported by the water. You're not, the breathing isn't a challenge. So it's not like you're, I mean, I'm mostly, I think, with you, but I don't think it's like apples to apples with it being like a real test of will, how long you can hold on once the tide goes out.
I mean, could we have given it 30 more minutes? Like, were we in such a time crunch to get back to the beach? It's
a 26-day season.
I
got to end these challenges.
I guess we're really like, okay, we got to get back. Like, we're losing daylight. So.
Well, seriously, like if it had gone into nighttime, which it could have if they'd let it go, once the tide went out, that's tribal council. Like there's no, free days in the 26-day season. There's no, there's no wasted time.
Yeah, I just feel like we've seen in the past where these challenges go back to in Survivor Caramoan, where Brenda and Andrea, I think that they were actually heads up in this challenge where it's like, okay, well, we're going to stand on 1 foot now. I don't know. Like, is there something that you could have done?
Do one arm.
Yeah. done differently? Could we have tried something? It's just like that we made up a rule of like,
Yeah.
okay,
You
well,
beat the
like,
challenge. Yeah.
it was never a thing of like, okay, well, if the tide goes in, then that's it.
Everyone left wins immunity.
Everybody left will win immunity if you can outlast the tide.
Yeah.
And if that's a part of the rules, then make it announce it as part of the rules.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It felt to me like a since when moment too. Yeah.
Since when? You know what's interesting is that this challenge, we think of it as like this is a really iconic Survivor challenge. This is only the 4th time that they've ever run this challenge. Like you probably would think like, oh, they must have done it 10 times. No, this is the first time since Caramoan, and only the 4th time in the show's history. I looked it up. Palau, Micronesia, which that I guess that that was the place to do it because that's the same location, and then they do it then 10 seasons later on another fans versus favorite season in Caramoan, and then they haven't done it since.
Wow. That's wild. I mean, it's a very fun challenge. I wonder how long, do we know how long it lasted in some of those
I looked up on the Survivor Wiki to know what the record was. The thing about this one tonight, and like maybe it's worthwhile going back and looking at it, I feel like that in the previous incarnations of it, the water I felt like was rising slower and wasn't as like choppy as it was tonight.
I kind of had that sense too. I remember because like Eric would do like the little this thing, which he didn't really do with like these big swells.
Yeah, it was like water torture in its original incarnations where it was just slowly going up till like only like a piece of your nose was sticking out, and the water was still. Where this was a much more violent version of this challenge, where there were basically like waves and swells, and the water was over people's heads for long periods of time.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. That's exactly right. That's a great reminder.
But I don't know if they let me look in the chat if anybody happens to know. But I don't know if we have a sense of how long of that time was. Okay. They've done it multiple times in Survivor Australia also. Okay. All right. Stephen, who do you think is going to be voted out next? Do you have a sense of where we go at the final 6?
Oh, I mean, like, it's such a question, right? Because on the one hand, maybe it's Cassidy, right? Maybe they're like, okay, Cassidy dodged a bullet last time. Now let's take out Cassidy this time. Or someone wakes up and says, we got to get out this pair of Jesse and Cody. They have 2 idols between them. If we let them get past one, if we let them get to the next vote, they're both going into the final 4. Now's the time to strike. I mean, that to me would make a lot of sense. If it were me playing the game, I would 100% go for either Jesse or Cody next week. But I really could also see it being Cassidy. How many episodes are left? 2 more episodes?
So we have next week's episode, and then it'll be the finale.
Oh, never mind. Cassidy's definitely final is 5th place. Okay, then I think maybe Jesse or she's just got that 5th place edit. She really does. Edit. She does. Yeah. I think I could be wrong.
I mean, the 5th place edit has in the new era, Stephen, has been Ricard and Lindsay. So I mean, the fifth place has been kind of a bigger edit,
than Cassidy has had. Yeah,
Lindsay Lindsay. She was at a very quiet pre-merge and then a very loud post.
Well, I kind of think Lindsay is not a bad comparison for Cassidy. I mean, in terms of that, I think Cassidy, we certainly seen her, play a pretty big role in the post merge. I mean, she had obviously some conflicts in the pre merge as well. I would not be surprised to see her go out 5th. I think I honestly think it's crazy to not get out Jesse next week, and maybe it's Carla. Maybe it is Carla. Maybe this sort of like lingering Carla fixation.
It could be.
It's not Gabler. No one's going for Gabler. I don't think it's Owen. I think they'd be crazy to not vote out Jesse next, but I don't think it's going to be Jesse. So maybe it's Cody. I don't know.
But that's the beauty of Jesse having that hidden immunity idol that nobody knows about, that if he just, gets a sense that it could be him. And again, maybe they don't tell Cody because, but if Jesse's spidey senses are tingling, and he could play his idol in a certain spot, that could be, the thing that does save him.
here's the thing about that. I think when you're at 6, your desire to hold on to that idol until 5 is going to be so strong that you're going to need to like, it's going to have to be more than like a spidey sense, you know, it's going to have to be like a alarm spidey klaxon, you know.
Right. And you still need to deal with the Owen problem. Also, I mean, Owen is still there and is still somebody who you got to know that the jury is going to love that guy.
Yeah, because he's just the eternal underdog. I think you're right. And you know, like he's had a lot of allies who are on the jury. Who do you think is so you think it could be Owen next week?
I think that if Owen doesn't win immunity, like I still feel like they have to take that shot at Owen, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
See, I would think if I'm Carla, let's say, I'm less worried about Owen because he's not had as big an impact on the game. Obviously, he may be well liked by the jury, but like I'm thinking like whose resume do I want to pit against my own? I'm not too worried about Owen because Owen has made it very clear that he's Charlie Brown, you know, and like is the jury going to vote for Charlie Brown? Maybe out of like affection, but not necessarily out of you know, I'm not worried about Gabler. I'm worried about Jesse and Cody.
Yeah. But you also, I think, might worry about who has blood on their hands, who is the jury upset with. And other than James, you know, I think that Owen has had like pretty good relationships with people. Like look over at the jury. Who's on the jury, Stephen? Janine, Noel, Sammy.
Right.
Like there's a lot of, I think, pro Owen votes that happen to be on the jury right now. I think that you might look over there and feel like, hey, we cannot let Owen sit with us at the end of the game.
Interesting. I mean, it really. So you think if you had to choose one person, you think Owen right now? I could see.
I think if I did my prediction for next week tonight, I think I would say I think Owen is the next to go.
I like it, Rob. I can believe it.
Yeah. Okay. Stephen, we have questions from the listeners and friends of the podcast here tonight. But first, of course, let me just tell you what else is coming up here in our Survivor podcast week. Of course, we are here at the Survivor Know-It-Alls at Stephen Fishbach's picture. Tomorrow, we'll have the exit interview. Told you about Adam Klein and Bryce, but then also be on the lookout for the B&B. That Shannon Gus, I believe, is going to be with Taryn Armstrong. So Survivor Global and Stockwatch are going to be working together. Stop me if I'm wrong on that one. And then why blank lost. Find out why Sammy lost. And then I believe Bryce and Wendell are still going to have a Survivor News Purple Pants podcast coming your way. That's all in our Survivor podcast feed at robisawebsite.com/Survivor feed. Stephen, we actually got a question from a friend of the podcast. Kellen Bechtold has a question for us. Okay. Kellen didn't even know she's watching Survivor Live these days. Says, help. I forgot how to get questions into the know-it-alls. Just want to know if Stephen Fishbach and Rob Cesternino think that there's a chance Carla was the target this week if she didn't win immunity. Hashtag RHAP at Rob is a podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, Robbie-o. Okay.
Did you just add that in?
Yeah.
Hey, yo, Stevie-o.
Yes. Okay. That's does anybody call you Stevie-o?
Hey, yo, Robbie-o.
Yeah.
Maybe they will now.
Mm-hmm. That's a new catchphrase that's been catching on.
Hey, yo, Robbie-o.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Steven.
Yeah, I think so. Because a lot of the interest, you know, it seemed like both, like the interest in taking out Cassidy and Sammy was largely based around weakening Carla. Like the initial desire to take out Cassidy was because it weakened Carla. The desire to, and Jesse said, you know, he suspected Carla had an idol. And then when the vote shifted to Sammy, it seemed to be, at least from the story we saw tonight, that it was because Carla didn't want to vote out Sammy. So Jesse kind of mentioned Sammy's name, and then Carla protected him, and that sort of triggered Jesse's desire to eliminate Sammy. So my thought is that yes, Carla very likely would have been the target if she did not win immunity.
I don't know. I don't think that Carla would have been a target from the Jesse and Cody side of things.
Okay. Why not?
Think
why like try to take out her allies, but not her herself?
Well, I don't think that they were trying to take out her ally. I think that Carla, it was Carla's idea to take out her ally.
Well, right. But
like
then,
that came from Carla.
Right. But then they were on board with it because it was the idea of taking out her ally. But then when you say they,
I mean, Jesse,
you know,
Yeah, I think he said yes to it because Carla came to him with that idea, but he did not unprovoked say, "Hey, I want to take out one of Carla or Cassidy tonight. I don't care which one." And then he's like, "Well, actually, if let's keep Cassidy in the game if Carla wants her gone."
But his desire to take out Sammy, at least from the story that I saw, seemed to be sparked by Carla's desire not to take out Sammy. So when Carla said that we can't vote for Sammy, suddenly Jesse said we have to vote for Sammy.
Yeah, but I don't think that any part of that was I want Carla out of the game. I feel like that Jesse wanted to, keep Carla as an option for him.
Okay.
So I do not think that Carla would have been the target. Okay. All right. Stephen, how about a question from our old friend Tubby Lunchbox has a question.
All right, Tubby Lunchbox wants to know, will Cody ever ask for his idol back, or will Jesse idle his way to fire making? Well, Jesse claimed he just gave his idol.
He told that to Noel, but we don't know. We did not
know
see
for sure.
It.
Yeah, we don't know. So that could have happened. It also might not have happened. My guess is Jesse will give back that idol to Cody, or already has given back the idol to Cody.
I would think so, right?
I think that would be a way to idol out Cody with his own idol would be a good way to really radicalize the jury against him.
Or maybe Cody hasn't asked for it back because he hasn't felt like he was in danger. And then especially tonight with like, nah, man, don't worry. I bet on the right horse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't looking for it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
one of these things that we'll never know because a quarter of the episode is spent at tribal council.
Okay. Yes. By the way, Steve, I saw that when Jeff opened with an analogy of the Survivor tide.
Yeah.
Was that an apt analogy in your mind?
I like that he was. I didn't even understand it. Like the tide goes in, the tide goes out. You're up, you're down. I mean, it was sort of like there was a joke I was tweeting over the week about like how anything could be in the last tribal council for last week, there were like 8 different analogies, and they were like all over the place. And people were speculating, is there anything that could not be an analogy for Survivor? And at this point, I don't think there is. Like at this point, I think with like the level of analogies in the game,
try to stump me. Yeah, try to stump me.
All right. Well, all right. The Queen of England. Is the Queen of England an analogy for Survivor? No longer the ex-Queen of England. Well, other than her, ex post facto status.
The game of Survivor, it's kind of like the Queen of England. It's been around forever, and it's got this long legacy, and that has, reigned over many different times. And ultimately, everybody wants to wear the crown.
Yeah. See, Queen of England. Exactly. What about a Twinkie, Rob? Is a Twinkie like Survivor?
Yeah. A Twinkie, it's kind of like a Twinkie, Stephen, because really that it sounds good, but then when you start to think about it, you don't really know what's in there. It could be anything, and you don't know for how long.
Yeah. It seems sweet. It seems very appealing, but as soon as you take a bite, the cream starts leaking out.
Yeah. The analogies don't have to make sense.
No, I mean the tide one was truly all over the place.
Yes,
it's up, it's down.
This is what Jeff said.
Riding it.
Jeff said to the Survivor. So I was thinking of you all today, and they're like, "Oh, Jeff."
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, the thing about tides that they're never the same. Is that true?
I mean,
is a tide like a snowflake?
Like a snowflake. Maybe he was thinking like snowflakes. I'm sure maybe it is. Probably to some degree.
He says there's
like a river,
a low tide and a high tide.
True.
And it's kind of like the game because you got to survive the high tide of Survivor. Steven, what the hell is the high tide of Survivor?
That's why they try to drown you.
Yeah. Although I do think that the tide, similar to Survivor, I think does ebb and flow in 26-day cycles. Pretty close.
No, but it's true.
Don't quote me on that.
You can do the analogy of, there are times when the tide is rising and you just have to keep your head above water. And then the tide goes down and suddenly everyone who survived is safe. Everyone who managed to make it to that point gets immunity. So that's true of Survivor.
Okay.
Not the greatest, but in general, my policy is fewer analogies. Hey, there was a great tribal council though. After we got the analogies out of the way, it was a super fun tribal council.
Well, I thought that what was interesting, and I've been sort of like looking for more of this, and I think it came from Sammy, who I think has been very good at these tribal councils. He's been one of the few players that has been like kind of a straight shooter at tribal council, and he basically announced before the vote, "I'm playing my shot in the dark tonight."
Yeah, is that the move?
I think it is the move in that I feel like that Sammy must have really had a very strong feeling that it was going to be him. And I feel like that the shot in the dark, that I think that the purpose of it is like to be able to get players to be acting irrationally to avoid having the shot in the dark used. So maybe, Sammy might have been hoping to destabilize people, saying like, okay, well, hold on, let's just think about this here now. So ultimately though, but because Sammy doesn't vote, then there's not one person who's sort of worried about then, oh, okay, well, it used to be, well, if he had an idol and he's casting one vote, maybe Cassidy's like, oh, hold on. Well, I better put a vote on Gabler, because then I don't want it to be one vote for me, but then it would basically be 0 votes. And then so we'd have a whole revote and
worry about that if it happens. You don't need to stress about it now. Rob, is Sammy the worst thing to ever happen to Xander?
Is Sammy the worst thing that ever happened to Xander? Boy.
Just because he's so good. Like, he's such a good version of this archetype. The young guy, sort of like, it's kind of strategic, he would you not agree that Sammy and Xander are competing for the same spot on Fans versus Favorites 3?
No, to be honest, I feel like I haven't compared them to each other too much. That I feel like that they're
young guy, wavy hair. No, wavy brown hair.
I mean, it's kind of. I guess they both have brown hair. How are their noses, Stephen?
Well, I believe Xander has a bigger nose than Sammy does, so that will hurt him in the water challenges.
But to me, and maybe this is like because Sammy didn't really win challenges. I feel like that I look at Xander as like more of a challenge threat and somebody who like was sort of like I thought that Xander came across as somebody who was like a little bit more like, I feel like I don't want to say mature, but I felt like that he played the game a little bit more like an older player. And Sammy, like, I felt like that was like frenetic and had like a little bit more like high energy than what Xander brought to the game.
Sammy had a much more aggressive game. He was much more. I mean, like the whole point about like the whole thing that everyone said about Xander, right, in all their exit interviews was nobody was really stressed about Xander. Nobody thought he was going to make have a decisive impact on the game. Whereas Sammy, every vote is turning things on their head.
Yeah. Other than they're both young, I don't really see them as the same type of player, but maybe I might be in the minority here.
I mean, I guess Sammy's is kind of curly, maybe more than wavy. Yeah. Noses. I don't know. I see a lot of similarities.
All right. Then how about this question about Jesse? Leah wants to know, why do you think that Jesse has been able to avoid the heat, even though he's been a fairly obvious strategist recently?
I mean, it's such a good question. Like, last episode or, with the Noel boot, we saw Gabler kind of saying to Carla, we need to deal with this Jesse Cody problem. My assumption was that at some point someone that meant that they were going to try to deal with the Jesse Cody problem. But I do think, with 7 people, a lot of fractured groups, and the tightest duo, it seems, being Jesse and Cody, and them being sort of in the middle. It's not just like chess pieces. People have relationships, and Jesse and Cody, because they are in the center of these alliances, because they are working so well together, I think like a strong duo, and this is really where a strong duo, people talk about pairs thinking that it means, any 2 people who are aligned, but really what it means is 2 people who are like very closely aligned, who trust each other a lot, who are going to go off independently and work strategy independently, then come back together and, talk shop and like bounce ideas around, just like Jesse and Cody are doing. This is where a pair gets so dangerous, because they can truly keep all the other groups from ever really uniting against them.
When I interviewed James, I asked him about, the relationship with Jesse and Cody, and he felt like that he didn't really see it that way. He felt like that he and Cody had like a really good relationship. So
That's interesting.
we're seeing so much Jesse and Cody, but I do wonder just how much the other players are looking at Jesse and Cody as like this unbreakable duo.
Well, I mean, Gabler said it, right? Gabler said that they were a dangerous duo. And certainly Jesse and Cody seem to conceive of themselves as a duo. You know, certainly Cody, we've had a confessional tonight where he talked about themselves as the duo that had been running the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a strength too, right? Where Cody's got his relationships and he can, you know, massage them, and Jesse's got his relationships and he can massage them, and then they come back together. And because they each are kind of working different people, they can sort of keep everybody, you know, the strategy of the whole group running to their aims.
Yeah. Okay. How about this question from Hey Jorge? Hey.
Hey, Jorge, hey, wants to know, did Owen miss a huge opportunity here to turn the tables on Jesse? He had immunity, he had the ammunition, and people like Gabler. When is the time to stop going with the flow and make a move? Rob, if not at the final 7, when?
Okay. So what was the move that he would
Vote out
have?
Jesse.
Vote out Jesse. Okay. Did he have the people to do it?
He has Gabler, let's say.
Yeah.
He's got probably Sammy. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the question.
So
what's Carla going to do? She doesn't want to vote out Jesse.
So when Jesse tells him the plan and tells him, okay, we are going to vote out Sammy tonight, and then it's also going to destabilize Carla and Cassidy. I mean, is Owen looking at that as like, hey, I just need to get to the final 3 and then I'll have a shot there? Is he looking at this as like, this is kind of too juicy for me to pass up? Because now once Carla and Cassidy are sort of like not on the same page, me and Gabler could pick up Carla, could pick up Cassidy, and then we could potentially like once like there's this crack in the ice, we'll be able to, you know, jump in and do our thing then.
Right.
And especially if you're Owen, you voted correctly so few times, Stephen. Like I feel like that step 1, just vote correctly.
Oh no, I don't know. Like, I think like the pressure is on for Owen to like make his signature move.
I think that he doesn't, but I don't think he has the confidence yet. Yeah. Maybe we see after, okay, oh, I was in on this one. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now I'm feeling it. All right. Yeah. Now I'm going to, but I think that every single time that he's gone out to try to make a move, like he's had, you know, his hand slapped back and like, okay, I'm not going to touch the hot stove. That was a lot of metaphors there. But
listen, he's a Survivor podcast.
We're getting ready for Tribal Council. Yeah. I think that maybe you might see Owen be a little bit more aggressive this week. I think that for him, he's just been wrong so many times. I just don't think he had the confidence to put together a big move.
I mean, we see it every time this duo just sort of like seems to coast to the end. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm referring to myself, but also, you know, with Wendell and Dom, people were like, why on earth are these people not voting for Wendell and Dom? I mean, it was the most frustrating part of Ghost Island, seeing, you know, everyone sort of throw away their games for Wendell and Dom. You know, Kim and Chelsea in One World. It's just, I do think that's like there's like a superpower to the really tight duo.
Let's see. People want to know, Little H wants to know, with 4 shots in the dark, drawing duds, does Survivor have to change the odds to 1 in 5 after season 44?
This is a great question.
If it doesn't hit in season 44.
Something needs to happen to the shot in the dark because it stinks.
It does stink. I've been saying for a long time that after it's done for this season, but I feel like that once it gets used and it's not safe, now it's 1 in 5. I feel like let's increase the odds if you want to have it. But for whatever reason, Survivor 43 players were not super interested in the shot in the dark. 42, those players, I think they played it maybe 4 times in season 42, but in season 43, I don't know, that they just seem not interested.
Yeah, and people have speculated that the shot in the dark is causing a lot more conservative votes at tribal councils, right? Because there's always the danger of the shot in the dark getting played, something going haywire. So it's creating more conservative play among the players. Nobody wants to really take a big swing with the possibility that everything will just go wonky. There's a lot of reasons why that seems to be the case, right? In general, like the play seems less aggressive. I saw we're talking about how much Jeff wants a live tribal council. We've had no live tribal councils. Probably, maybe the shot in the dark is contributing to that. Maybe it's partially because of these shorter seasons where players don't have time to kind of create crazy schemes in their minds. I don't know.
Okay,
Stinks.
Stephen, anything else about the final 7 here tonight?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, Sammy was a super fun player. Loved how aggressively he played. I love that he was constantly trying to, move himself forward in the game, constantly shifting things on his head. I mean, even from the very beginning, when those early episodes when Ellie didn't want him to be the one to talk to Gabler, suddenly he's like turned on Ellie. I mean, he created so much fun chaos at Baca.
We love it.
Really continued to be a really fun character into this part of the game. Who's your pick to win, Rob? Give me the number one.
I think that Jesse is got to be the number 1 pick on the board.
Yeah. I was very much a Carla fan until, and this episode, I'm losing faith.
Well, I think she's the number 2 pick. I mean, I guess you could argue Cody would be number 3, but I still feel like that Carla has a compelling case to win the game if she gets there. But it just feels like that if you were going to track the trajectory of where things are going, this was certainly, I feel, a down week for Carla and another good week for Jesse.
Yeah. I mean, I actually feel like Owen might have more of a winning story than Cody does, because I think we've seen a lot of Cody's story kind of filtered through Jesse in a way that we haven't seen Jesse's story filtered through Cody. That duo seems to be, from the story that we're being told, mostly about Jesse kind of calling the shots with Cody as his sidekick.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if I would be surprised. I would be somewhat surprised if Cody were the one of that duo to win.
It would be surprising, but I think that maybe if Jesse was out of the game, I think then you could see, I can't see Cody passing Jesse, but I do think that if Jesse gets taken out, I could see Cody, Jesse vouching for Cody on the jury, going, half Murphy, and we'll see if that's ultimately the case. Oh, Little H says, how about our Fishy Award, Stephen?
Oh, gosh. Fishy Award. Got to give it to Jesse, right? For
Fishy, please, or get Omer back to give us a birdie.
Wow. Little H. Don't say those hurtful things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Fishy to Jesse, right? Of course.
For what?
For the plan to vote out Sammy. He was the one who put the target on Sammy. What do you mean?
Did he?
Yeah.
I mean, that his plan was to make.
But it was also to vote out Sammy, which then happened. What? And he pushed for Sammy. Cody, Cody push for Cassidy?
Mm-hmm.
Who would you give the?
No,
the
I think you still. I think you still give it to Jesse, even though things did not go. I thought that Jesse had a really great plan, which ultimately did not come to fruition, and we still don't know exactly what happened.
80% of the way there, and the idea of voting for Sammy because Carla wants Cassidy out. That's very smart.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe honestly, you can see a world where it was Jesse who told Carla, where Jesse thinks to himself, the fun of pitting Carla and Cassidy against each other is not worth the risk of leaving Carla out of a vote for very little good reason. And there's something to that, right? They really would be isolating Carla. Jesse knows she has an idol, so she's going to be, safe at least one of the next 2 votes. So not necessarily the best move to just piss her off, just to kind of create some small fracture between her and her and Cassidy. So I really could see a world where it's Jesse who told Carla, where the votes were going.
I'd be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah, no, I mean, but I hear you. I mean, honestly, thinking about it now that we've had, I guess, 2 hours, an hour and a half since the episode stopped. I kind of think it would have been a bad choice to vote out, to leave, to put your ally, on the wrong side of the votes, because she would be mad. You want people, she'd be mad, and you're going into the final 6. Why do that? Why create that chaos?
Yeah. But it does seem in the next episode that he is going to tell Cassidy that Carla was gunning for her.
But that's different than, and that's a fine thing to say, but different than forcing, then tricking Carla, leaving her out of the vote, and then suddenly having this person who was your ally super mad at you with an idol, scrambling.
Yeah, I think if you were going to do that, I think you kind of need to bring Cassidy in the loop and say hey, just so you know, Carla is I think lock in Cassidy, the ally, before the vote happens, and hope that she's not going to go back to Carla.
Yeah, but if I mean, we certainly know in this day and age that people, ping pong between alliances. I think that would be a dangerous move because I mean it sounds brilliant on its face, and I do think there's a lot to be said for getting people to vote against each other. But when one of them is your ally, as Carla seems to be with Jesse, I don't know. I mean, I think you gotta say like, oh, it was at the last minute. I mean, there's a way to like sell it to Carla, like, oh, it was the last minute. We found out Sammy was gunning for you. We were like, no way, we got to get out Sammy now, and we didn't have time to tell you. I mean, maybe it's never that hard to sell it.
Okay, all right. Let me tell you about what's coming up.
Okay,
here on Rob is a Podcast.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Stephen. Tonight, The Amazing Race 34, episode 11 airs. I'll have a recap in the morning with Jessica Leese and Mike Bloom to talk about these two and more here on. Do you know who these two people are?
I think so.
Yes. Okay. They are Big Brother alumni, Derek X and Claire.
Yeah. Okay. I thought, yeah. Okay.
Derek, you remember Derek X from the challenge?
From the challenge. Yeah. No, I liked him on the challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. So we will see what happens there as we were down to the final four on The Amazing Race season 34. And then over on The Real Love Boat, Stephen, wow. What an episode of The Real Love Boat.
Are people finding
tonight.
love?
I think they found it, but now they are also finding what happens when you lose it. So that's a very tense episode of The Real Love Boat with Jenny and Kirsten. That's going to be going up later on tonight as well. Then over the weekend, Stephen, over on Rob and Akiva Need a Podcast, we played Password. Are you familiar with the game show Password?
No.
Yeah. Not at all.
Not at all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No. Of course, we played with Grace Leader hosted as T-Bird joined us, and Big Brother Canada's winner, Kevin Jacobs, joined us for a fun edition of Password. If you are a fan of the classic game show, check out the latest RHAP, and I strongly encourage you to watch the video as well.
What's the game Password like?
You have seen it. You may not know what it's called, but basically it's like that, I'm trying to get you to say a word, and I'm saying basically like one word to get you to say it.
Like the $10,000 pyramid.
A little bit, but that's like, you're saying a bunch of words. This is just like I say one clue, and then you have to try to guess the thing.
Now give me an example.
Okay. Let me do. Beware.
Of Doom.
No. No.
Okay.
All right. So that's how you play Password. Check that out on Robin and Giving You a Podcast. All right. And then over this Sunday, Maggie Morgan and Jacob Jones are going to get together for a Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. They're getting together once a month to talk about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. That is going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern live. So check out Maggie and Jacob for a special event talking about all the happenings that have been going on this month on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. It's at robisawebsite.com/YouTube. And then last night, Steve, have you played the game Spyfall?
No.
I know you're a big board gamer. Played Spyfall last night. Had a great crew for RHAP game night. You can watch the full video of that game that we do once a month that Grace Leader puts together. Our friend Gabby Pascuzzi was there as well. So check out Spyfall and be on the lookout for our condensed version of Roll Call coming your way on our YouTube channel. And then this Saturday, we've got a brand new patron show that I am doing where I'm taking calls from the patrons on our patron Discord and on Facebook. It's called the Patron Happy Hour, and I'll be live at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm sure we'll talk some Survivor and much more coming up this Saturday. If you want to join us live for a Patron Happy Hour coming up in our patron community, I will post those podcasts for our patrons in our patron podcast feed. Had a great patron 5 for 5 with Nicole this week. Access to our patron community on Facebook and Discord, and also the chance to be on with our live shows with the survivors, where you can be asking your questions and much more. It is, in my humble opinion, the greatest reality TV community in the world.
Wow.
It's
What's the
Robinson Podcast.
competition?
I mean, that's not for me to say, Steve. RobinsonWebsite.com/patron.
Just don't know how we can compare. You know, how we can say which one is the greatest if we don't know what the other ones are.
It's just my opinion.
Yeah. Okay.
You can subscribe to
I don't like
Robinson
to rank.
Podcast. It is arbitrary and reductive. That is true. RobinsWebsite.com/subscribe to get access to the podcast feeds for all of your favorite RHAP shows. And we always appreciate your ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. Stephen, what's coming up for you this week? Anything fun?
Hey, I just finished. Well, not
Yes?
quite finished. I think tomorrow is our final tribal council. It's not using the name tribal council.
Oh,
At Expedition Online, which
Stephen versus Coach.
Stephen versus Coach. I drafted my roster. Coach drafted his roster. All of the final 3 are original Fishbacks. So no matter what happens from
spoiler
here,
alert.
I win the game. I asked them if I could spoil that. They said yes. I felt very strongly about it. So if you're interested in watching, it was actually a very fun strategy game. There's a lot of very fun characters. It's going to be on the Expedition Online YouTube. If you're interested in playing, apply. I think it's a cool ORG, and obviously get some of the past contestants from the games involved, and gives to charity. So all those are good things.
Cool. All right. Well, Stephen, great to have you back. Okay.
It's great to be. Yes. See. Okay. You admitted it was great to have me back because Omar was no good.
Have I ever not?
I just wanted to be clear that the subtext was because Omar was no good.
Okay. That I do not need to disparage Omer to say that you also are great each week.
But better, great and better.
Well, he had fresher experience.
Well, wow.
More recent. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my biggest fear. That some hot young, new guy is gonna,
What, steal my heart? Yeah. I mean, that'll never happen.
Rob.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We got a really fun Thursday coming up with Amazing Race, plus our exit interviews, and also my conversation with Adam Klein on a busy Thursday on RHAP. Thanks for joining us. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.